Hi, welcome to the closing ceremonies of Onyx Path Virtual Convention 2023. It feels like I just said welcome to the opening ceremonies like 5 minutes ago.
Blink of an eye ago.
Every time, I wonder if it's just because it's like a weekend or if it's because we're not in person or we're not we're in our chairs. We're just kind of like sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up all weekend. But it just feels like it goes by so fast.
It really does. And just so much fun stuff happening, I think, too. I think that tends oh, hey, it's already, what time is it? Oh, wow, we were having such a good time.
Yeah.
We were beating
So
up Ares, or we were stealing Cerberus, or we were
have you been stealing a lot of Cerebuses this
Cerbai.
weekend? Cerebi?
I'm just going from the stories I've heard from the various actual plays that went on.
Well, I am Dixie Cochran. I am one of the developers on Onyx Publishing. I am here with, of course, Rich Thomas.
Hello.
I'm assuming people know who you are at this point. If not, that would be a
I'll
little
just say
odd.
it's founder and creative director of Onyx Publishing.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we're here to talk about a few of the things we did this weekend. And also this is, I guess, your last live chance to get in some chat questions, although we are always in the Discord, and Rich loves it when you post on the Monday Meeting blog. He loves
In
comments.
the comments.
He actually gets really excited if there are a lot of comments in the blog. He comes in and tells us in the next Monday meeting.
I do a
Uh,
countdown. Look what I said. Oh, look what's up to.
you get excited. You get so excited. You're like, look how many we got.
Hey, I got jazz hands too.
Oh, do you? Do you have jazz hands? All right. Cool. So, what did we announce this weekend?
Oh, good question. So let me find my list. Sorry, I have to put this on. Let's
Most of
find
it
my
was at
list.
the What's Up panel yesterday. And then we talked a little bit during the opening ceremonies, but we did pretty much the bulk of our announcements then.
Yep.
So you can already see some new channels in our Discord for things
Yeah.
like Earthbane. Um,
Exactly. We announced the Earthbane cycle, which is the
mhm,
overall arcing name for what's starting with the world below,
mhm,
and will be continued with another fantasy game called At the Gates, which is coming after World Below.
mhm.
And it's called the Earthbane Cycle. There's a reason for the name, and there's a reason why it's a cycle. And we're not going to tell you any of that stuff because we just really just told you two names today, so you would add to the fun with the World Below. Where
Yeah.
we also announced that the World Below has an ash can that we are working on. Will be available pretty soon
Mhm.
because we'd like to get it out in time for people to have some fun, some read-throughs, give us comments, and playthroughs because there's a scenario adventure in there, and we'd like to know how that works for people if everybody has time and gets a chance to do that. So
Yeah, definitely.
uh, we showed the cover for that on the panel this morning, the World Below panel.
Which means if any of y'all are watching that panel, you've seen something that I haven't actually seen yet.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
might have seen it internally somewhere, but I forgot if I did.
it's there, and also of course you'll see it when we start talking about it, put stuff up in the course of the next couple of weeks.
Mhm.
We also ran the video for the teaser. It's the teaser for it's a trailer of the teaser trailer
Teaser
for
trailer.
for the producing of the Scion TV show,
Mhm.
which seems very complicated, but what it is basically is that Jenkins and Tate are partners there who are doing this producing the Scion TV show, getting that together, getting it into production for submission
Mhm.
to the various streaming services to get picked up by one of them, hopefully. So we don't have cast, we don't have we barely have crew, but there are some very talented people attached to the project so far. And as things get firmed up, more news will come out of Jenkins and Tate, and they will let us know, and we will also share that like we did with the teaser. But I think it's real cool. I hope everybody who wants to has had a chance to see it, and we will, of course, also have links to that available on our social media.
Mhm. It's
Oh,
already up
what
on, I think,
else?
Twitter and everything too, so you can
Yep,
go see some of that stuff now.
we put it up, and also Jackson Tate has their
Mhm.
various accounts as well. So
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I follow their Facebook page and I was like randomly flipping through and ran into the teaser trailer like a couple
bonk.
hours after we premiered it, and I was like, oh shit, it's that
Yep.
thing that I posted earlier.
Well, that was the great thing about it is, and working with Jenkins and Tate, and they're by and large, the whole company is a bunch of fans of what we do. Brian Jenkins, obviously, of Jenkins, of the Tate, is the he is playing at least one of our games a week.
Hmm.
Some of them are long, extended campaigns. I think they're doing a Trinity Continuum Aberrant game right now. So, and it's good because he's also an old school fan, so we're going all the way back. And the stuff that we're doing now has got him very excited. And he's like, I had to explain to my people who are used to playing the old Aberrant how the story path things changed, and they got really excited because some of the things sounded really great to them. Got confused on some other things because they're coming from the old ones, so we worked our way through that. And then overall, everybody's having a good time. So it's like, that's
Cool.
you don't hear that from most of your licensing connected partners
Yeah.
of most of the time. That level of really just immersed in what you're doing. So it's been a pretty good fun time so far.
Hmm.
We talked a bit and also had demos all through the convention about the Stray Path Ultra.
Hmm.
We
The
announced it.
brochure of which is now live.
Yeah, we announced that there's going to be a core rulebook being made for that. So that's going to be
Hmm.
a basically not connected to the world below, not connected to they came from, but the rules themselves. I'm sure we're going to have some potential setting material in there for people who want to play with different kinds of setting
Hmm.
and show how the system can work in it.
And there is
Um,
a Story Path Ultra channel in the Discord now. If you want
yep,
to continue talking about that there, it's under
people
Second
have been
Call
talking
System.
about it
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
no, I saw.
Yeah, I knew you did. And there's our hope that this will also enable people to, if you want to take your an idea that you have, you now will have a system that you can drop your setting on top of and play through.
Mhm.
Let's see. We also announced that for Exalted, the next Fat Splat that we'll
Yeah.
be working on after Abyssals, and will come out after Abyssals is Alchemicals.
Yes.
And Infernals is the one slated for after
Hmm.
Alchemicals, which has been, I think, one time we did it that way, the other time we didn't do it that way. This edition we're doing it that way, and there's variety of reasons, but mostly we can come to grips with what needs to happen with it, bringing Alchemicals to third edition um, faster and more tightly than Infernals, which needs a little more massaging.
Honestly, it's really cool that we're already like talking about alchemicals, considering that when I started at the company, we were like launching the Dragon Blooded Kickstarter
Right.
like that week, which was a weird week for me. 'Cause it's like, hey, you're in charge of Exalted. Also, you have a Kickstarter.
Well,
And I
yeah,
was
I
like,
mean,
cool.
and we've gotten up to this speed, and we've gotten up to the ability to start getting these things out. Yeah, I mean, people are saying you'll never get everything out, that you need before 2030 or something like that. And we're like, no, we just have to get all the folks working together,
Hmm.
being comfortable with the process, and it will all speed up a little bit. And
Yeah.
you were instrumental, obviously, Dixie,
Thanks.
for coaching all of the
And of
Exalted
course, D
crew.
is doing a fantastic job now. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. Like going from having essentially three or four people who could develop Exalted, and some of them dropped off and had to the life
Right.
things going on, and so we've got new ones, and they're doing great. So yeah, no, it's a lot of freelance teams. It's kind of like playing a long term like role playing game where you've got some changeover, you got some life changes. Like in one of my D&D groups, one of our guys moved away. It happens. There's people have kids and they can't play anymore. Their work changes,
Yep.
and we just have to keep roll. Like if you want to keep telling the stories, you just got to keep changing the team up a little bit. But it all works out, kind of like a superhero team,
Yeah, 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 guest stars and
right?
filling characters and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely been a because Exalted is such a very special game, and it's uh not complex in the I can't get my head around this, but in the way that it interacts, the various pieces of
Hmm.
Exalted interact with each other. That just making a single change of oh, this book should go here instead of here, is something that we really have to be very careful about to make sure that everything is set up right. And
Mhm.
it's a lot easier to do that if you've got a bunch of people who can step in and make sure that all those pieces work together.
Definitely.
So, yeah, and we also, I think, mentioned that the Strip Path Ultra brochure, which previously had only been available to game stores and distributors
Mhm.
via several conventions earlier this year, is now up on drive-through. You can get a PDF of it. So if you want to look at the basics of what Strip Path Ultra is, what it has done with the Strip Path system to fine tune it, you can look it up yourself. Yeah. Did we talk about anything else? Was that
Did we mention at the gates? We mentioned at the gates a little bit.
we mentioned at the gates?
As part of their thing. We had too many little fiddly things we talked about, and they were all cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then and we filled people in on some progress on some projects and
mhm.
things like that they want to know how things were going, or if X, Y, or Z had been included. We didn't answer any questions about when those things were going to be released because you know what?
We never answer those
We
questions.
don't do that. And we've found over the years that rather than get people falsely anticipating the release of a product, we'd rather get people
Ian
more.
is in the chat being correct. We did also announce that Trinity Continuum Aegis is our next crowdfunding campaign.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Um, so yeah, so of course people are looking forward to that. That's the farthest back we've gone in Trinity Continuum so far.
Yes,
Uh,
the fall of the Bronze Age, the rise of the Iron Age is about where it
mhm.
lands.
And also, based on what little I've seen, the cover is going to be amazing.
I'm really happy with it. Shen Fei has just done a fantastic job, as they do with all of our covers. But in this particular one, maybe it's because it's the latest, and I just like it because it's the newest. I don't know, but it looks great.
And a couple of promotional things. That, of course, this past Wednesday, Exalted Essence did go on sale on
Mhm.
Drive Through RPG, so that is available for the wider public now. We are still, getting the Kickstarter books going, but I am super excited to see those deluxes because they're going to look awesome. And also, we have a little under a week left on the They Came From the RPG Anthology Kickstarter. Um, so that's the one where, of course, you've been voting on new genres. We're adding some new genres that we had already written, and we're adding a few more over the course of this. The runoff vote begins tomorrow.
Right.
So if you're a backer, then definitely go vote. And if you're not a backer, then go back and then vote. Because we had a
Process.
lot of runner-up categories from the vote that people felt very strongly about, myself included. Two of the ones that I was really pulling for didn't get in. So I am looking forward
Second
to.
chance.
Yeah, I am. Although now, of course, it's going to be even harder because now all those second chance ones that were all so good are all going to be against each other, and everyone's going to be like, no. Like, some people are going to be unhappy, but that's okay. But honestly, it's been cool to see how close the voting is because I think
Yeah.
that also shows us that we have pretty good instincts when it comes to what genres we put up there.
Hmm.
Because we have had a lot of internal conversation. I mean, you can look at a game like They Came From and suggest 50 genres in 5 minutes if you just try.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, some have more legs than others.
Well, Matthew has some very strong parameters of what he feels is can work for that they came from framework. So
Hmm.
that's one of the first things you sort of apply all those ideas to
Right.
to these parameters. Does this fit? Well, no. Is there any way for it to? Oh, well, then I guess we can't really.
Mhm.
But the thing about the book that came from the RPG anthology is that it has Straight Path Ultra in the back,
Hmm.
just like from the brochure. It has a extremely abbreviated version of the original Story Path rules for They Came From. I think Matthew got it down to 2 pages. And then it has 5 settings innately and 4 more with the voting. So we'll
Hmm.
have 9 settings in there. And all you need to play them is right there in the book.
Yeah, it's basically like, let's see, it's 9 settings plus 2 rule sets, so it's 18 core books in one.
Sure.
Want to do that math?
No, I don't want to do any math.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. That's why you're the creative director and
Yeah,
not the math director.
right, exactly. The engineering department's over there.
But yeah, so that's like we really like I love that they came from games. They've really gotten them down kind of to a science as far as like how to
Mhm.
throw one together. And it's just because I think Matthew was so thoughtful with the first couple of them that
Right,
now it's a lot easier to kind of just pull out a bunch of whips and figure out your archetypes. And even talking on the Discord, like I did not work on this game, but I was talking with some of the fans about the different archetypes, and one of them, and Michele came on and was like, "You nailed it, you figured it out," and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool," because like really, when you start looking at things through that lens of like tropes and
right.
archetypes and certain character types that appear in everything, it can be a little I don't want to say easy, but just like intuitive on what to
Mhm.
pull out. Although sometimes there are strokes of genius that I wouldn't have thought of. Like I don't think I would have thought of the puppet for
Right.
Cyclops Cave, but that's perfect. Like it's absolutely perfect. And as soon as I read the archetype, I could figure out what like which characters that would apply to in
Mhm.
every piece of media.
Right,
Like I'm a big He-Man and She-Ra fan, so I was like, oh, that's how you play Orko. Okay,
right.
or you pull in the Inhuman from one of the other ones. There's so many fun things you can do with
Yeah,
this.
well, I mean, and the nice thing about any of the cave forms is all the archetypes. You can put them in any game.
Yep.
If you think that the puppet makes more sense in the space opera game, well, you just made Farscape.
A lot of people have brought up Rigel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was made by the Muppet Studio, so Jim Henson and all that. But
Yeah.
sure, but you see that in other things as well. If was the I think the original thinking for that, because it was Cyclops, was the owl in
Mhm. Yep.
Titans, right?
I,
Flash of the
I I
Titans.
think so, but of course my '80s kid brain immediately goes to like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal and stuff, where
Oh yeah,
everything's
again,
technically a puppet, but some things are
Henson, yeah,
more puppet. Like
right,
if you look at Dark Crystal, right, the puppet is Fizzgig.
right.
All the other puppets are different kinds of characters, but
Hmm.
there is a puppet character in that movie, and it's
Right,
Fizzgig. And so it's like really interesting when you start thinking about it. And also, once you start thinking about it, it's hard to watch a lot of movies without applying it, especially movies and TV shows that have a pretty solid team of five.
right.
Like I mentioned in a different panel, but I just watched Star Trek Prodigy, which was
Hmm.
amazing. And I'm definitely sitting there like, okay, that's that person and that's that one. And I can definitely
Right.
use this interstellar space opera, but I want to bring in this archetype for this person.
Yep.
And like it's so easy to do once you start thinking that way. Which I mean, we've all talked about a lot with games. Like once you start working on games, you start playing video games and you're like, oh, I can see that mechanic. That's kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
And it's not stuff I ever thought about before, you
Right.
know?
I know why they did it that way.
And
Hmm.
then it's extra funny when you see new people come on and they start trying to reinvent the wheel. And you're like, been done, been refined.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about it, is because we are in such a creative industry that people do find new ways to approach things
Mhm.
that you might think are stuck. Well, it's been done a million times, except for billion and one. Wow. You know.
Right. Definitely.
So I think that's one of the advantages we actually have as a hobby, is it's so personalized for that sort of stuff that all it takes is just a little bit of a shift to it, and you're like, whew, that I never even thought of that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I know that you were on a bunch of panels this weekend, and I
This
don't know
is
what you
my
watched.
sixth panel this weekend, and a bunch of following up on a bunch of commentary and stuff like that, and just talking to people who were on the panels and things like that. Um, been fantastic. We had a great time. Stupidly great, foolishly great time in the World Below panel. I think we were all just really into the newness of it and the freshness of it. And Ed Greenwood was on that panel, and he was
Mhm.
very down to earth, but talking, how do you build a world? The importance of various things in that, including mystery, including not
Mhm.
telling people exactly what's going on, as long
Yeah,
as not telling them is more fun than just throwing it out there.
I talk about that a lot with Pugmire
Hmm.
specifically because it would be a less interesting setting if like everyone knew everything about it.
I know there are people who just want to have it all laid bare and know everything about it, but I really think is for the majority of, and even the fun for those folks, it's better if we just never say these things,
Yeah,
and just let it be mysterious, because then that like, where did the people go? That has to be one of the central questions that the characters have had in their lives, their entire lives.
Hmm.
It's a huge mystery for the all the peoples that are left after mankind left, or
Hmm.
humankind left. So yeah, so it was really nice to hear that out of Ed's mouth, since he's been, creating worlds and
Hmm.
RPGs since I was a gamer, and went, "Who's this guy who got his world in as the official D&D world? What the heck? Anybody could do that?" And it was like, "Bing!"
I definitely did not get to watch that earlier, but I will have to very soon. It's super exciting.
Yep. So yeah, so it was really great. And I think we've been able to cover a lot of things and get a lot of really great information out to people. You were playing a bunch of games though. I did not get a
I
chance to
only
play any this year.
I only played one game.
Oh,
The only
you
game.
did?
Yep, I played Realms of Pugmire last night with a bunch of
Pugmire.
Tales folks. It was super fun. We were definitely playing the new edition. So not only the guide, but also I was on like reference duty, like looking things up in the manuscript, trying to
Mm-hmm.
remember how it works in second edition, which was a little less easy for me too because I've been running a 1E home game for a
How do
little
we
while
realm
now.
this Pugmire?
Yeah, like, but I really love the changes that got made. I think that they're all super streamlined. Like the fact that you don't have a saving throw bonus, you just roll with advantage or with the boon, as Pugmire
Right.
says, and like Eddie maths the math on that. It makes sense. It really does. Not having stat numbers, just having your bonus or your negative.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like why do I need to see if I have a 16 or a 17 or whatever? Like just give me a bonus or not, you know?
Right.
So there's so many little changes that make a lot of sense. Uh, my, of course, I've talked about it already, but of course, being spell points is one of them, which is one that I like not suggested, but kind of like campaigned
Mm-hmm.
for, just because it makes more sense to me.
Right.
But really, all the changes make so much sense, and the book is really intuitive. And as we did at Save Against Fear when we were still playtesting it, did a whole bunch of rolling random characters with templates, and that was
Nice.
really fun. Like,
Yeah.
just like sometimes you have the character in mind you want to play, and sometimes you build it around the group, and sometimes you're just kind of not, you've got like character block, it's like writer's block.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I want to play. But
Well,
you roll a couple dice and see what they give
Pokemon
you.
for Pokemon in particular, Eddie said we did the Onyx 20 panel, was my one before this one, and one of the things he said for when he was designing Onyx 20, which is our die 20 go-to system now, was he thought templates would be a lot more important for a lot of people from Pugmire 1, and he
Mhm.
discovered that pre-created characters for Pugmire in particular can really land like a wet sack of cement, because so many people want to um, be their dogs.
Yeah,
They have a
everybody
beloved
wants to
pet, and
be
they want to
yeah.
play that character, so they don't want a canned one.
Yeah, like there aren't any canon Scottish Terrier characters that I know of, but I play one every time. Not every time, but a lot, and I put one in the book as one of the quotes
Hmm.
in Pirates, I want to say.
Sounds right.
Because as a kid I had a dog who was a Scottish Terrier named MacArthur. And so I think that MacArthur Scots Terrier is a great dog. And I
Always
think that he
returned.
needs to be in there. But yeah, like there are too many dog breeds to have all
Right.
of them have bespoke characters. And of course, I think a lot of people obviously have mixed breed dogs
Oh
and
yeah.
various other kinds of mutts. And so if you want to play your dog, it's gonna be hard to find it in there unless you have a really specific kind.
Yeah. But giving the tools to make it all happen seems to be make people happy, and then like you say, you jump in there with templates and things like pop, 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 pop. There we go.
Yeah. Also, unleashing the breed from the type of dog you can be.
Right.
That is something that, of course, a lot of games have gone with humanoid races as well. But in Pugmire, it made extra sense because you hear so many people who are like, "Oh, she's a small dog, but she thinks she's a big dog." You
Right.
know, like that's just a common thing. Or, "Oh, he's a big dog, but he's terrified of his own shadow."
Hmm.
And so there's no reason that like a big dog is always going to be, stronger
Right.
or
Or more aggressive.
or more aggressive,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, in the game last night, we had a stray, which is the barbarian kind of class, who was a Yorkie. Uh, because that's fun. And we had a Saint Bernard who was our spellcaster,
Right.
and her focus was her little barrel, her little brandy barrel.
Nice.
Because of course, why the heck not?
I can hear slosh. I can cast now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So yeah, like I like that Eddie decided to uncouple that, and it even makes more sense when you look at some of the other animals that we do, because we of course talked about cats and the cat book coming up, which I am not revealing insider knowledge about. There isn't even an outline yet, so I am not saying anything
Right.
canon here. But like we did talk about with the original monarchies of like, yes, there are cat breeds, but generally you're like, I have a long-haired cat or I have a short-haired cat. Unless you
Right.
like specifically have like a purebred Angora or something. But it's like, nah, my cats are listed as DSH, domestic short hair.
And I think, and I said this at the thing as well. I think that the thing that applies to dogs about, oh, I had this dog, so I really want to play this dog in Pugmire.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that that applies as much in Monarchies of Mal, because what we generally were hearing from a bunch of people was like, yeah, I, I could play my cat, but my cat's such a jerk. Right? That they love the cat for being a jerk, but
Yeah.
they're not sure it would work in a game. So it's like, okay, that's cool too.
I thought you were gonna say what I was gonna say about my cat, which is that she's kind of stupid. Like she's not the smartest
I was
creature.
using a sort of jerk as an umbrella
Oh,
term,
okay.
because really what I was going to say is a-hole.
Oh yeah,
Because a lot
yeah.
of people have told us that over the years with yeah, so should I just like mess up what's going on with the party because I'm the cat, and my cats like that. They would just like screw. Like, I mean, you got to make that call, right? It's your game.
Yeah. You can play whatever you want, but yeah, no, I
Right.
have all of it. All of my cats get thank yous in the book. They don't always get played.
Right. Exactly. There's no way I'm bringing you in public. But yeah, so that was actually a pretty good panel as well, because and if anybody wants to know about both, if you're a Pugmire fan, haven't had a chance to hear anything that he said about Pugmire, Realms of Pugmire this convention, he did a pretty thorough look. Well, I don't think it was everything, but a pretty, hitting the high points of what um, Realms of Pugmire's rules changed when he redeveloped
Mhm.
the rule set to be Onyx 20, and away from the scary OGL. So if you get a chance to check out that panel when it goes up, if you can't get it on Twitch, you want to check it out on our YouTube channel when it goes up. It's near the end, but it's some really some interesting stuff, I think, in terms of explaining why things have changed the way that they have,
Mhm.
all for the better, as you said. Good to have that experiential agreement.
And also, I think that he ran a game yesterday morning that'll be on VOD. And then of course I was in a game last night that was run by not Eddie, but a different guy who was very good from Dork Tales named Krista. And then we had a Realms Pugmire panel as well
Hmm.
yesterday, which will
Yeah,
be on VOD and on Twitch. So you'll have
plenty of opportunities.
lots of places to hear about Pugmire, which I know wasn't a new announcement, but it's a fairly recent, crowdfunding that we did, and
Yep,
it's
just the
exciting.
beginning of the
So
year.
yeah, it feels even more recent. Time is moving too fast, Rich.
There is no time after COVID. You know that.
It's true. It's true. I actually was writing a date the other day for something, and I almost wrote 2021.
Hmm. Wow.
Like just erase
Really
two
fell backwards
years.
into that
Yeah,
hole. Yeah.
yeah. No, I was like June of 2023. 23
Damn
is
it.
correct.
Yep.
But yeah. So that's the game I played. Of course, you and I were in four of the same panels. So
Hmm.
we opened, we what's up, we branch writers, and we're doing this.
Right.
What were
Yep.
your other two? Was Onyx 20?
My other two
Yeah,
was Onyx 20. Yeah, whatever. Hold on. Let's see what it says here. Uh, Branch Riders, we were on.
right.
Um, World Below
Okay,
and Onyx 20.
cool.
Yeah. So
Sweet.
yeah, no, so those have all been great, and we really appreciate the questions. Had a great time answering as many of them as we could answer. In fact, I think World Below, Matthew had a backlog of questions
Oh
that
wow.
he could we ran out of time. We were actually overtime during the thing, and they had Matthew had to get going to the next one. I think Kat was with him, and they
That
both had to go.
that is our first like announced completely new fantasy world, right? That we've done in a while.
Uh, I mean, certainly in a while. Yeah, I mean, certainly Cochran is probably for fantasy worlds probably is the
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about like Onyx Path specific, not like partner games.
right. Yep. No, this is ours. It's using Story Path Ultra as its rule set. It's fantasy. It's people living in subterranean existence in a
Hmm.
world of weirdness and wonder, as Ed Greenwood said, which was very nice coining of some of his as he was writing, keeping those things in mind as he was writing stuff. So that was cool.
And honestly, I haven't read The World Below yet. I am familiar with the pitch, obviously, having been there when Matthew birthed it from his brain on a podcast episode
Hmm.
multiple years ago.
Yes.
But like, I am really looking forward to reading it because I've heard nothing but praise from Matthew for the entire team.
Oh yeah.
It sounds like everyone's done just a fantastic job and just fleshed out this idea even more. I know that you, obviously, as creative director, always have thoughts on any pitches
Right.
that come to you, and so like, I,
Well, especially in
I
the world building into things,
yeah,
what that's one of those things that generally any of the new games that I'm far more deeply involved with than supplement for game X that we've already established the parameters for what we're going for,
mhm,
So yeah. Um, so and again, like I think we pointed out, we kind of touched on it a little bit. It's the beginning of us doing fantasy games using Straight Path Ultra. So there will be more.
yeah,
We will see how they do. Our goal is to provide a wide variety of different kinds of experiences with playing fantasy games. In the genre,
mhm.
we'll be bouncing all over the place, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean we're all sci-fi fantasy nerds because I don't think you get into this industry if you're not a bit of one.
Yep.
You can have some of that you're attracted to usually if you want to get into the role-playing game industry.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
so,
I think the three hills are um, science fiction, fantasy, and horror.
mhm.
Like that's our particular genres that TTRPGs tend to cycle around.
Yeah, then a lot of the other things are like amalgamations
Hmm.
of one or more of those. Now, we're not saying that's all there is. I know there's romance games out there and things like that. So we're definitely not saying those are the only three, but they are,
Right.
the big three. Definitely the big three for Onyx Path, I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we had a couple of questions.
Okay.
Someone did ask if we are going to make any more major announcements, and I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer that one.
No, we just recapped it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no.
um, we I don't know that I'm trying to think of a scenario where we would drop something and then go, okay, we're done now and leave. It would, I'd like to do it sometime, just because it would piss a bunch of people off.
Just like in the
But
last 5 seconds, be like, oh, by the way, we're making
yeah, hi, did we
it.
mention our license for?
And anything you say is going to become a rumor, so you can't say anything else.
Oh yeah, we actually had that happen in some of the questions earlier today.
Oh yeah, and I mean, people mishear things, or they
Hmm.
hear things with an earful of desire. They're like, oh, I
Yeah.
really want you to have
Ugh,
said this.
I don't want an earful of desire,
You know
but
what I mean?
I know what you mean. It's a good one. I just don't want it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and actually one of the things I like about this format, about us having, we're doing this thing, we're getting some live questions and stuff like that, is that we can immediately say, well, what we're talking about is this.
Hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
let's just skew you back to what we were talking about, and maybe take off that earful, that ear of desire. Will take that off for a little while. You can.
Ian is in the chat saying that we got the license for the New York Times RPG. So that's a weird one.
If it includes the crossword puzzle, then you'll understand why we got it.
Making that Wordle money.
Yeah, I did it in 3 today.
Ooh. Apparently, I didn't know this, but it's a question. That is a very it's a little odd, but it's fun. Apparently, the TC, Anima, Aeon, and Aegis actual plays all had a powerful goat of some sort. I did not watch any of them, so I do not know. Uh, what do we think, or would we think of codifying it as a Trinity Continuum deity?
So let me use the magic of the technology. And if since Ian seems to be watching this, Ian, would you please answer the goat question?
There is a goat question.
It is in Trinity Continuum. It is your bailiwick.
Is there a goat deity that we don't know about?
Uh,
Is he wearing a hat?
oh, like the squid guy, Francis.
Francis did nothing wrong.
You guys.
Tom, in his very wonderful floral way, Tom Merritt, one of our friends, asked, "What is the
Mm-hmm.
treasure we are taking with us from the panels this weekend?" Which I assume is supposed to be a memory or a thought or a lesson or something cool that happened.
Uh, well, I mean, unlike someone in one of the earlier games who corrected someone who said that the friends they made along the way is the treasure. And then someone corrected that to say, no, the treasure's the treasure. Uh, we, in fact, are not collecting treasure. We're collecting fun times that we're having with people. Hopefully, the only treasure that's happening here is going to our good friends at the Badana Group,
Mm-hmm.
who are the charity that we are donating to from this convention. And I heard from Jack, as you did. I don't know if you were in the conversation or was before or after or during, that some of our wonderful people who've been watching the convention and being involved with the convention went to Badana's
Mm-hmm.
page and went to their donation page and donated to them outside of the con. And that's just as wonderful as inside, as long as Bodana is gaining some sort of value from this, and it is helping them with their mission to bring tabletop gaming into a valid therapeutic method.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't. I personally do not care how they get those donations. Thank you so much if you have donated or if you've done something here with our con, because we will be donating to them a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good percentage, massive percentage.
Yeah,
Huge.
no, I love working with Bonnet Group. I was very excited when I got to go to the first Save Against Fear that I went to a few years
Mm-hmm.
ago, and then of course we didn't have it for like 3 years, and then I got to go back last year. But I love their convention. Like it's really a little hidden gem. Like for those of you
Mm-hmm.
who can get to York, Pennsylvania, for Save Against Fear, I know that this year Jack said they actually have a sponsorship situation going
Yep.
on, with the city they're based in. So I'm looking. I don't know what they're gonna do with that. Like I actually really liked the space last year, but it sounds like it's gonna be bigger and better.
Jugglers, fire breathers.
And real dragons, you said.
He said real dragons. So I don't know what he was on when he said it. Okay, can't speak for him.
But yeah, like it's a fun little con. It's a really chill con. It's one of those where, much like we've talked about Midwinter in the past, it's the kind of place where you can just sit with people and hang
Yep.
out and like chat, and you don't feel like you're having to rush from place to place like at a Gen Con or a PAX Unplugged or what have you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really funny because for years, especially being a Dragon Con goer, I very much was like, why would I go to a small con? And then as I got older, the more I like treasure small cons.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to spend. They're incredibly friendly people. Jack is always working to bring people from the role playing game industry that have a game that he's really enjoyed, or like he's been a
Mhm.
fan of for years and years, to come to the convention. So you don't know who's liable to be there
Yeah.
at any given thing. And I've walked into it and seen somebody I hadn't seen for like 5, 6 years. What the hell? How you? Ha he who?
Hmm.
um, and had a nice reunion sort of scenario. So it's yeah, and again they do it. They do save versus fear, save against fear, in order to raise funds for the continuing work that they're doing.
Hmm.
Um, and Branch Riders, their game that we're publishing, is part of that as well.
Hmm.
It's going to be straight up. It's going to be a fun tabletop RPG game. But it's written by a team that includes some serious gamer therapists who, in the process of building this thing, even if they didn't intend to, they did not deliberately say, "Les, we've got to make sure that we give them a moment of this and an affirmation over here."
Mhm.
Um, that kind of thinking, because that's how they approach, what they do in their and life,
Mhm.
is in the game. It's built in. So play it straight up. It's just really fun. But they're also going to be publishing a book that is the Facilitator's Guide, and that is actually for if you are a therapist, how do you use this
Mhm.
for that? It as Doug said, one of the creators of Plutana, this does not give you all the information you need to become a therapist. It is for therapists, not
Right.
people who would like to be therapists. Please go study that and and actually get your degree and your certification. I do not attempt this at home, basically, is the whole shtick on this.
Yeah. And definitely, once again, there's a great panel from yesterday that will be up on YouTube and on Twitch if you want to go learn more about branch writers from Doug and Jack from Madonna, as well as Rich and I who were, there.
Yeah. We just basically kind of poked the conversation as the two of them went off on what was going on with Brand Wars, but it's incredibly in depth about what the game's about, and I think it touched on a lot of the fun points and the high points of
Mhm.
why it's a really good game.
Mhm.
They get good with it.
Mhm. To answer a question that is in the chat, I don't know that we have any upcoming European events that Onyx Path folks will be at. Of course, we do have European Onyx Path staff, and they can go where they want.
Right.
And we did just have a few people get back from UK Games Expo, which I know is not in the EU, but it is in the UK. It's a whole thing. Um,
It depends on your definition of
of
European.
of European. But yeah, past that, I don't know that we have anything like official as far as a
Yeah.
presence goes. But now, especially that we have Matthew and Eddie over there, and we have so many other talented freelance writers, developers, what have you, that
Mhm.
live somewhere in Europe. We're not opposed to going to things. It's just a matter of timing and money and all the other things that we think about when we do any
And
convention.
and everyone's comfort level with getting
Yep.
back into face-to-face
Oh yeah.
conventioneering.
Yeah, that
So
is the number one reason, whether or not we do something or not.
yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a thing. We're talking about internally all the time as to like what we want to do as far as
Mm.
events, or if there's somewhere better we can use these resources,
Right.
and we're constantly reevaluating as we have been doing since 2020, because that's pretty much all we can do for the past few years, right?
Oh, absolutely. And again, I mean, I know that there's some level. Oh, I didn't see your booth and things like that. Well, we do have some presence with a lot of the conventions in the U.S. at least. We have some presence because our sales partners are there,
Mm-hmm.
and so whether we're there, they are there with our stuff. And often, in the last couple of them, we have had a section of their booth that is very limited in terms of just talking to people and making sure that they can get the books that they want.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not doing demos, we're not doing this, but all of that stuff is on the table again as we feel better about getting out there again.
Yeah, totally. And we'll always update you on the blog. There's a convention section every
Hmm.
single Monday meeting blog that says whatever people are comfortable announcing they're going to be at, essentially. Because
Right.
sometimes people just want to go to a con. Like sometimes I want to go to a con and have it not be work.
Yeah.
But sometimes I go to a con and it is work. And if it is work, then I'll let you know I'm going to be there. And if it's
Right.
not work, I'll let you know if you're my friend.
Right.
So we had another question as we get toward the end here. What would you like to try to achieve with community content creators in the next year? Are there any kinds of events or collaborations you're interested in doing with our community content folks? Maybe that other companies have done or something new for us.
Well, I mean, I personally would like to make sure that we're, first of all, enabling our community
Hmm.
content folks with everything that we can enable them with. Bandwidth wise, we would need to be pitch something like, hey, we'd like to do X community content's getting behind this, that, or the other thing. But in terms of accessibility to the various game lines, making sure we're continuing to get things out there in a timely
Mhm.
manner so that people can jump in with theirs. Again, some of the things that we're doing is making sure that the stuff that we already have out, the next thing we generally do after we get it out to the general public is to say, okay, what do we need to do with the community content for this? What has to be opened up? Is it just a single line that says you cannot use this?
Mhm.
But we want to get that stuff out there after we get it out to the general public, because that version of it is the one we want community content people to be working out of, not the version that you got from the Kickstarter
Right.
or things like that, because there's always going to be changes, and we would like our community content folks to have their best feet forward.
Yeah, we don't need the cascading effect of it goes to community content, people internalize it, and never
Yeah.
gets changed or whatever.
Well, plus, I mean, we get like when we do, we have a whole errata thing and everything that
Mhm.
goes on through that. Um, that's all what we do, and we're used to people getting freaked out and then being calmed down and freaked out and calmed down. Don't really want the community content folks to have to go through that.
Right,
It's
exactly.
just it takes some of the fun out of doing it, and a lot of our community content folks are out there doing it because they love it.
But yeah, I would have to, as far as the rest of your question, I would have to look into like community events and collaborations and things. It's not something that I'm super up on.
Mhm.
I've seen a few here and there, but I'm only aware of a few community content programs, and since I don't personally contribute to them, I just haven't followed up with them as much as I probably could have.
Right.
But I'm not opposed. I mean, I don't think we're ever opposed to events or collaborations. It's just a matter of what's feasible at any given time and what we have time for. Because I mean, we have a lot of books that we're working on at any given time.
And that's really one of the serious things about it is that um uh we, like I say, I want community content to have the accessibility, but we
Right.
really can't drive community content. We just don't have the time. If we did, doing we'd be doing things like the stuff that's coming out of community content, like to some extent. Um, so we want to be there. We want to make sure that we were giving everybody the ability to do it. Like I think somebody asked, will the world below be on community content? And we're like, unless something really odd came up, like, somebody said, we want to put that right on TV, but you have to have nothing except what you're putting out. Okay, then we won't put it out there.
Yeah.
And that's like so incredibly unlikely. Don't worry about it. We would want to get that stuff out there as fast as we could for community content to build on it. I also want to point out that we have the Sloratian Vault, which is for
Mhm.
Scarlands. We have Canis Minor,
Mhm.
which is for Pugmar. And we have and I got the Story Path Nexus for our Story Path games.
Mhm.
Now, I didn't mention anything from the Legacy White Wolf
Right. Because we don't run
stuff
those.
because we don't run those. We don't put anything on those, and we don't get anything from them.
Yeah. Someone asked the other day about an art pack for us, and we are like, "Ask Paradox." Like, sorry. Like,
We literally don't have access to put that up there.
Yeah.
That's not part of our license. And again, people think that maybe they're supporting us by no, you're supporting, I mean, for any of those, you're supporting Paradox, and you're supporting the game line and your fellow fans.
Yeah. And that's fine. We're not saying don't
Yeah,
do that. We're just saying that we can't field questions about it. Because yeah, like if someone asks about like Essence art packs, like they have all the art. That's on them.
right.
Uh, and that's how it's gonna be. But I do love our community content stuff. We've got I think we had Eleanor Lane in the chat who is very
Yeah,
much like
th-
our Scarred Lands
some
person.
very nice Scarlands work. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean tons. I mean, gosh, like a fair amount of our freelancers have put stuff up. Like I think that Michaela's They Came from the North Pole is a very fun Christmas supplement
Ho ho
that
ho.
we probably would never have done. Maybe as like a tasty bit around December,
Right.
maybe.
Right.
But
Exactly.
Michaela made it and put it out, and it's a lot of fun, and people actually run it and enjoy it, and that's great.
There's so much room in any RPG for all sorts of projects that
Yeah,
a company may or may not be able to get to, or may or may not want to get to. We were just saying, you could do your hometown. Everyone who plays could do their hometown and put them all up on the various community content things.
Mhm.
That's not something that a company can do. We can't, go around the world and figure out where everybody is and go, okay, here's your hometown and here's your home. We're not Oprah. So, it's fantastic that you could potentially, have that kind of thing that goes up with community content, and boom, there you
Mhm.
are.
And also, I mean, who's gonna write about someone's hometown better than somebody from there? Like, there have obviously over the past 30 years of role-playing game books being made or more, there have been many, many missteps
Mhm.
in various city books by people who didn't live there.
Right.
And everyone's seen that happen. We all know the jokes. I'm not gonna rehash them.
The New
But
Orleans
like,
subway. It's one of my
yep.
favorites.
Oh yeah, everyone loves that below sea level town with its subway. Uh but like, you know, write about what you love. And if you want your hometown again, tell us about
Yeah.
it. Like I I would have to say, circa 2000 if I was going to write Raleigh, North Carolina, but I definitely could write it. It doesn't look that way now, but
Then
I
you
could
then
write
you'd
it.
have to go visit. Then you go, oh wow, 20 years that they've
I
done this? What?
Oh my god, I can't even. Every time one of my friends who still lives around there posts anything, I'm like, "Where the hell is that?" And I look at it and it's like, "That was a field in 2003 because I haven't lived there since oh five oh six. No, a little later than that. I guess like oh 08. But still, like it's been long enough. It's been 15 years that I'm like everything has changed. Nothing is the same.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just
Uh
some things. It was just a total aside because we never do that. A total
oh no.
digression.
There no
I just
tangents.
I just recently went and went past and viewed my uncle's old house
Mhm.
that was out, as far as we were concerned as kids in Philadelphia. He was out in God's country. He was out in farmland, just
Right.
just barren emptiness. And I realized that actually the where we moved to recently, we're only 15 minutes away from it. I went by to see it, and it's pretty similar. So,
Yeah.
whatever. That's at least 40 years. So, yeah. Woo.
Yeah. I was back in Connecticut recently for the first time in five years, I guess. 5 years. And I was like, even in 5 years, I'm driving around and I'm like, where the heck did that come from?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't there. I did remember how to get from where I used to live down to where I used to work. I was like, okay, I can do this fairly easy
Mhm.
navigation. I did not remember how to get to the casino where I used to work. I had to go a whole different
Oh,
way for that because things have changed so much that I was
yeah.
like, I don't remember how to get there. That's what GPS is for.
But yeah,
But
that's why in those intervening years they invented GPS.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was just for me. It was just so I could make
Mm-hmm.
my way back to Mohegan Sun, where I worked until 2018.
Yes, exactly. Just for you.
Just for Dixie. We do have one more question,
Mhm.
which I'm going to ask because we have about 5 minutes left. And that's what's your favorite jumpstart or intro product that we do that you've played or run?
Well, I don't know that that's particularly fair. Um, so I'm gonna go for like an incredibly. It's an easy out. I don't. You might feel it's a sleazy out even. But last year, just over a year ago, we released for Onyx PathCon Trey, um, Into the Hole, which was my adventure intro to the
Ah,
Crossroads Continent, which was my D&D world.
was that
Uh,
a year ago?
just over a year. Yeah.
Jeez. All right. Okay.
Yeah. I got the notice that popped up. So this came out a year ago.
Hmm. I'm gonna be also kind of weird, and I'm going to say a Festival of Blades
Oh,
for your Cavaliers of Mars because I don't
nice.
think that Cavaliers of Mars gets nearly enough love. It's one book. It's got the jumpstart, and it's also got the one supplement that I got to write with Steffi Devon.
Hmm.
And I love that world. It's so weird. It's so like cool and strange
Deeply
and
flavorful in a
yeah.
very accessible way, very easy to grasp it. It's swashbuckling. It's on Mars. Anything you've ever seen that's on Mars that you enjoyed probably could be replicated, except maybe The Martian with Matt Damon. Matt Damon.
But
Um,
yeah, but like I love Ruth Bailey's brain. I'm we're talking behind the scenes about working on some other stuff together in the future because
mhm.
I've known her for a lot, pretty much since I moved away from Raleigh. So about the same
Yes.
amount of time. I've known her about 14, 15 years now, and I love talking to her. I love working with her. Sometimes she says things and I'm like, I don't get it, but you go. And sometimes
Hmm.
she says things and I'm like, that's the best idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And it's a lot of fun being her friend.
Yes, I'll bet it
Uh,
is. It certainly is.
so yeah, I always love working with her. We talked about doing some miserable secret stuff, which is of course her Castlevania
Right.
inspired vampire playing game. So I am always happy to promote Rosa's stuff on here. She does still freelance with us sometimes.
Mhm.
She has a lot of her own work now too. But she's still a wonderful friend and developer and writer that we
Yeah.
like working with.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we will often uh, suggest that if a writer or developers have a particular problem, that they send a message to Rose and see if um, her fevered game brain can. Wow, if all you had to do was this, boom. Oh
I
yeah,
I feel like all her brain does is churn out games and enjoy sci-fi and fantasy media and
absolutely.
horror media because that's a lot of what we talk about. Other stuff too, but
Like you do.
that's friend stuff. But like, uh, she has a wonderful little Discord that I'm in where we talk about all kinds of media
Encyclopedic
and
knowledge.
games. And yeah, she knows, like, she has probably forgotten more about games than I've ever known. Like, it's ridiculous. She'll bring up stuff that I'm like, I never have heard of that in my entire life.
Hmm.
But cool, go you.
And she does a phenomenal Skeletor impersonation.
She does a phenomenal Skeletor impersonation. You are absolutely correct. Anne has a game out based on that.
Yep.
Princess of Power, I want to say. Anyway, this is not the Rose Bailey Appreciation Hour, but it could be. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we start wrapping this up,
No,
Rich?
I am absolutely good. I'm just really thrilled that everybody seems to have been having a really good time. But reading the various uh, uh, social media on all the people's responses to it. People are
Yeah.
finally, there's some things that we've been wanting to let people know about for a while, and that's always a good feeling for us to be able to not hide stuff, because it's not like we don't want to tell you. It's that there's other things that are in the way.
Yeah, no, I am in the work chat for At the Gates, and I've like I know everybody who's been working on it has been like, I want to talk about this, because we've had lots of very cool conversations
Oh
about
yeah.
world building specifically,
Hmm.
in there that I think folks will like seeing once it's time to start doing
Right.
any kind of preview text or
Right.
whatever.
Yep.
Because yeah, like, I like fantasy world building. It's a lot of fun. Like, yes, it is fun to work on things like Trinity and Scion, but you still have some modern day constraints, obviously,
Right.
or some, is it practical? Would it happen constraints on parts of it? Not all of it, obviously. Some of it's way out there, but quite a lot of it you do. And then when you're talking about a whole new world from the ground up, you can really just be like, ideas,
Yes.
play with them.
Run amok. So
Uh,
okay.
Cool. So, as our fearless leader, I think you have to do one more thing to send us off. But thank you all for coming to Onyx
I'm
Path
gonna bring
Virtual
this over so it's near
2023.
my
Okay.
mic here. I,
And
I rang it yesterday. Nobody could hear it. The silver bell ushers us out of
Silver
another
Bell.
wonderful virtual convention with the Onyx Path. Thanks
Thank you
everybody who
so
attended it.
much.
Thanks everybody who paid attention and wrote stuff down so we knew what was going on. And which the tech team, you did great.
Have a wonderful week, and we'll have our Monday meeting recap tomorrow.
Yeah. Talk to you all later.